Connections. That is the key word in the political, social, and economic scene. It's a person's key to success, a person's golden ticket. If they decide to go to college, a job interview, or a promotion, if you have connections, you have a one-up. Let's take Derek John IV, for example. His father is the head executive of a big-time business like Costco, and his predecessors are comprised of a long line of successful businessmen. However, high school's not Derek John's forte, and he decides to take a gap year between high school and college, comprised of parties and TV, before he gets serious about his life. For any other middle or upper-class family, this decision would be disastrous. No high school diploma means a low-paying menial job and added stress to the family to try to support their child. However, this is not the case for Derek. Luckily, good old Derek John III, his father, knows someone who can get his son a permanent job as a Walmart sales executive. This job will be waiting for him when he is ready, and Derek John will never have to worry about money for the rest of his life. This case exemplifies the benefits that come with having connections. Derek John's father has developed some very strong relationships with people in power and has established what is known as generalized reciprocity. This means that if someone does something nice for Derek John's father, it is expected that in the near future, Derek John will also repay the favor. This luxury, however, is only available to a very select group of people who can often thank their kin. Periodically, there are opportunities for those in the upper or middle class, and on rare occasions, the lower class, to develop these extensive networks of connections and cooperative relationships. Yet those who hover above, below, or even under and around the poverty line have no feasible way to escape the poverty that binds them so tightly to their income. A census tells us that for the first time since Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty, the rate of poverty is expected to peak at 47 million people. 47 million. 47 million people cannot afford to own a home. 47 million people must decide between breakfast, lunch, or dinner. 47 million people will not have access to the material resources or security needed to reap the benefits of social capital and financial benefits. 47 million people will shuffle through a homeless shelter at least once in their lifetime, whether it's for a night or 3 years. How can this be? How can 47 million people, over 15% of our population, be living off of inadequate wages that do not provide them or their families with necessities such as food, shelter, a home, or even an education? 30% of the homeless population is made up of families, many of which are young single mothers with kids. While there are some cases of substance abuse problems or mental illness, the most common reason for homelessness is that many just can't pay the bills. A study by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development discovered that the majority of these women generally had low levels of education, limited job skills, and were often working multiple jobs at once. When millions of Americans are working minimum wage jobs at $7.25 an hour, let's say for about 50 hours a week, in 1 year that individual will make $18,850 for the entire year, and that still puts them $3,000 under the poverty line if they had a spouse or child to care for. This number does not factor in doctor visits, a possible education for their child to try to give the opportunity to them that they never received, food, clothing, and a place to stay. This is the cycle of poverty. Where do these people who have hit rock bottom and exhausted all of their financial and social resources, if they had any, go to get back on their feet? Where do single mothers who are working 2 full-time jobs to allow their child to get an education go when they're laid off for a more reliable worker? A study on the patterns and costs of service use among homeless families concluded that 20% of the homeless population has a single but sustained long stay in an emergency or transitional housing shelter. Transitional shelters are typically more service-driven, with child care and support systems provided on-site in a more private environment. Some of these shelters even include apartment-style units and temporary housing placements until the family is stable. Transitional housing is a successful pathway out of poverty, unlike the unrealistic claims of social capital, by promoting a route to self-sufficiency for these families. However, these transitional shelters only receive so much funding from the government and other private donors. President Barack Obama's $787 billion economic stimulus package is directing approximately $1.5 billion to address the homeless problem, increasing funds for shelters, prevention tactics, and expansion of unemployment benefits, food stamps, and welfare. While programs like these are a great step in the right direction, local solutions for local problems are imperative. In a wealthy county such as Hunterdon County, we often forget that our coworkers, fellow teachers, students, and advisors could be silently struggling in shame or embarrassment with this kind of poverty. What can you do as a student, a daughter, a teacher, a friend of someone experience this vicious cycle of poverty? We can increase their resources by becoming more proactive in our local communities and providing those in the working poor, and underclass with more access to material resources and provide a safety net of security. Setting up an adoptive family at your local place of worship is a great way to provide a family suffering from poverty a plethora of relationships and connections. This extra support system could enable a single mother to work full-time while her child stays at the church's daycare. Or, if the family is low on money and cannot afford food, the synagogue could host a large community-wide picnic and for everyone at the temple. The possibilities are truly endless when a community comes together to help a select few people break the bondage of poverty. The goal is to create an opportunity for social mobility. This would allow for families trapped in the midst of poverty to develop the initial network of connections needed to climb the rungs of the social ladder. This would allow social capital and what it stands for to help those who are not upper middle class, who do not have a family name to live off of, and who really do not have the stability of a meal every day to benefit from those around them, those who have connections and relationships. I'm not saying this is going to fix the problem. This is one of the first steps that we can do on a local basis to help improve these people's lives. I hope you reach out to those around you and bring awareness to the growing national problem of poverty, because no helping hand is ever too small.